All right, so to all of you AFC teams out there, I hope that you all enjoyed and made the most of last season because he's back. And by he, I mean Mr. Joe Burrow. And I firmly believe that the Bengals are going to return to being the Bengals that we've all accepted as an AFC superpower once again this season. The Bengals are coming off of a season last year that unraveled after Joe Burrow tore several ligaments in his wrists against the Ravens on Thursday Night Football. It was tragic, and if you were a Bengals fan, you felt devastated, and you felt like you really took a step back. It was a deflating moment, and it was at a time where the Bengals were doing what the Bengals always do. It was November. They were lingering right around 500, but you had that feeling that they were about to accelerate and take off at any minute like they always do. The Bengals always take off late in the season. They always get better as the season goes on. As you get into late November, December, January, that is when the Bengals predictably turn it on. And it felt like it was going to be that way last year. But when Joe Burrow got hurt, it was over. Those Super Bowl hopes were shots. And the Bengals were my pick to win the Super Bowl last year. And I still believed that at the time until Joe Burrow got hurt. But that was when it all came to a halt. But I want to make this point that as deflating as last season was, and I know Joe Burrow was still playing in Week 11, the Bengals still just barely missed the playoffs. They went 9-8. And I do give credit to Jake Browning because he really held it down during Joe Burrow's absence. Yes, some of the games he had were sloppy. Yes, he looked unrefined at times. But generally, he held it down and still gave the Bengals a good chance to make the playoffs. So credit Jake Browning and credit the Bengals for staying afloat and battling and competing even late in the season. But I say that to illustrate that this is a very good football team from a foundational standpoint. This is a very tight-knit football team. And a lot of the band is still together. Now, I believe that this Bengals team is going to be dangerous this year. And I know that I'll receive pushback on that for several reasons, and I want to outline them right now. The first one being the Bengals do have a new offensive coordinator in Dan Pritchard. Brian Callahan, who engineered a lot of that Bengals offense, is now the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. And congratulations to him. I'm very happy for him. I think he's going to do great things in Nashville. But I bring that up to say that most teams, when they get a new offensive coordinator, their offense looks kind of clunky and out of rhythm, and it kind of lacks flow for at least the first half of the season because the coordinator is trying to get on the same page with the players on his offense. And it can be a struggle. But sometimes it's not. So that's really a question mark, but that's ambiguity that the Bengals are going into this season with, having a new offensive coordinator. The second piece being that a few of the foundational pieces of that Bengals offense that took the squad to the Super Bowl several years ago are now on different teams. Joe Mixon, who was integral in that offense, is now a Houston Texan, and Tyler Boyd joined his former offensive coordinator in Tennessee. Those are two players who had a huge role in bringing the Bengals to the Super Bowl and the AFC Championship the year after. And you can look at that and say, oh, Brian, this Bengals offense might not have the same burst and firepower that it's had in past years. And that is a reasonable take. But I'll tell you what they do still have. They do still have Joe Burrow, and they still do have Jamar Chase. As long as you have that duo, I think you're going to be okay. They also have T. Higgins. He's coming back. He signed his franchise tender the other day, and he will be a Bengal in 2024. So it was a nightmare for a lot of Bengals fans. I'm sure there's some sleepless nights in Cincinnati. I'm sure a lot of people woke up in a cold sweat thinking about losing T. Higgins. It was a terrifying thought, but he is still a Bengal. And that brings me to my third point. It wasn't exactly the smoothest offseason for the Bengals this year. It was really tumultuous at times. Both T. Higgins and Trey Hendrickson, late in April, requested a trade from the Bengals. And I remember looking at my phone and seeing that on my way to class. And I was like, wow, it's getting interesting in Cincinnati. They're going to have to really start to make some moves if they want to keep this team together. And it was a real juncture. It was a real fork in the roads. And a terrifying moment for Bengals fans out there. It was a rocky and tumultuous offseason. But both Trey Hendrickson and T. Higgins are running it back this year, despite those contract struggles they had with the Bengals. And for this year, at least, a lot of this band is still together. And I think the Bengals are dangerous. And I think that they're dangerous because they're one of those teams that when they face adversity, when times get tough, when it gets challenging, the Bengals elevate. The Bengals get better. They fuel off of that. And that's exactly what this season is. This is a season where they're coming off of a rocky offseason. They've been through a lot. Joe Burrow coming off of that wrist injury last year. And they're feeling urgency now, too. Because while this squad is still intact in 2024, you're going to have to worry about paying Jamar Chase. That T. Higgins issue isn't going anywhere. It's going to start to become more and more expensive and challenging to continue to put a product on the field year in and year out that could potentially compete for a Super Bowl. That's going to get more and more challenging. This window is only going to be open for so long. And the Bengals know that. But the Bengals are great when that pressure is on. You see that in individual games. When you get below 2 minutes, trust Joey B and Jamar Chase. Trust that connection. When it comes time to make a play to go to the AFC Championship, you trust those Bengals. They deliver every time. And their back is against the wall right now. They see that window closing. And I think they're only going to elevate and get better for that reason. So just because of who the Bengals are from identity standpoints, I think they're a huge threat this year. And when you have an elite quarterback, you're capable of things that other teams in the NFL are not. You can overcome so many other obstacles that other teams can't. There's only two other teams in the NFL that have an elite quarterback. And it's the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes, and it's the Bills with Josh Allen. And you saw what happened with both of those teams last year. The Bills were in peril going into December. I think at one point they had like an 8% chance to make the playoffs, and they still clawed their way back, despite having a new offensive coordinator. They had to switch offensive coordinators halfway through the season. That is insane. Adjusting to new offensive schemes halfway through the season. That's nuts. You had the Stephon Diggs drama last year. But through the guidance of an elite quarterback like Josh Allen, they still somehow navigated a way to get back to the playoffs. The Chiefs last year, they lost to the Raiders on Christmas. Along with the rest of the nation, I thought it was over. I thought this team was in shambles. I thought they were going to lose in the first round. I thought they were going to lose to Miami in the first round. I'm not even kidding you. And compared to what Patrick Mahomes has had in the past, with having Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce out there at the same time, the receiving core he had this year could not measure up with that at all. But he still found a way to bring that team not only to a Super Bowl, but to win another one and get more rings for his organization. That's the kind of impact that somebody like Joe Burrow has. You can have all the chaos in the world going on around you from a contract standpoint, making sure guys are going to stay on the team, coming off of an injury. Joe Burrow is still going to find a way to get it done. When you have an elite quarterback, you can overcome a lot of things that other teams can't. And the Bengals are in a more favorable situation than they've been in past years. I'm going to end with this here. They have a fourth-place schedule. In 2023, they had a first-place schedule. You had to play the Bills. You had to play the Chiefs. That's tough. This year in the AFC, they have to play the Patriots, and they have to play their former offensive coordinator, Brian Callahan, the Titans. That's so much easier than having that first place schedule where you have to play the Titans of the AFC. You have to play the best of the best. That is a huge schedule break. They also have the 14th easiest schedule in the NFL. They're tied for that. The combined winning percentage of their opponents is .502, which is right around mid. They have the easiest schedule in the AFC North. So from that standpoint, the odds are in the Bengals' favor. That window may be closing. They may have internal issues to deal with, but from an external standpoint, they have breaks this year. And it's up to them to capitalize on it. But if there's one individual I'm not going to doubt, besides Patrick Mahomes in this league, it is Joe Burrow. And I think that this team is scary. I really do. Looking at that schedule, looking at the fact that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are still there, and a lot of individuals from that defense on the Bengals that I like are still there. You still got Jermaine Pratt. You still got Logan Wilson. You still got B.J. Hill. Last year, their defense regressed. They were 31st in the NFL, and I think that a lot of that just had to do with the challenges they faced later in the season last year, because the year before, they were second in the NFL in points allowed per game. So this is a defense with a lot of potential. And I think when all these parts combine together, you've got a very good Bengals team this year. And I think a team that could possibly compete for a Super Bowl, and I can't wait to see it. Have a great day. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate you and the time that you took out of your day to watch the video. And if you enjoyed it, please be sure to like the video and share it, as well as subscribe to The Era. The more likes and subscribers I get on this channel, the more resources I can attain, and the more resources I can attain, the more value I can provide to you, the viewer. And that is how I show my appreciation for you for the time that you devote to watching my videos. So thank you so much, and have a great day.